Welcome everyone, KD here. This is part number 3 of my Unreal Engine 4 tutorial about interactive actor widgets. So for a short recap and for everyone that doesn't know what I mean with that is when we go closer to our NPC, a widget comes up here and we can actually interact with it. That was what we set up in part 1. In part 2 I set up the talk example to show you the difference between a widget that is directly connected to an actor and a widget that is on the viewport itself. So we have here this short dialog when we press on talk. If you want to revisit these tutorials or if you missed tutorials, I will put a link in the description. So what we want to do now is have the greet function on. What we want here is a set up a very short cutscene. It will be one animation, and then we have a camera that kind of zooms out. But this is really the basics of creating a cutscene. You see what you need. Of course, if you want to make more complex cutscenes, you have to work with more cameras and so on, but this will show you the very basics of a cutscene. That's kind of the goal of this part here. So what we have to do first is we have to create a new actor widget. I go here on blueprints and actor. I call this cutscenes for now. So actually any actor widget you have, maybe you have already one in your map or so, and if you want to use them as example when you watch my save and load tutorial, then you have already an actor for saving and loading. You can put the variables we use here also in there if you want to. However, absolutely, if you have a more complex project, then I would suggest to you to use different actor widgets for different tasks. Like here in this example, these cutscene actors, that will then be for managing different variables for all the different cutscenes, and you may have, I don't know, 10 cutscenes, you may have 100 cutscenes, and then it kind of adds to it adds a lot of events, and so you may want to have really a separate actor for that. But if you have a smaller project, then maybe it's better to put different tasks in the same actor blueprint. But for now, let's do it like this. Extremely important, always put the actor blueprint in here. So we also work with a widget here. I can show you the widget. This is just a widget where we talk and greet. We could also put in variables here, but from my experience, it works worse than creating an extra actor. It's just better with an actor. The problem is you can't put the widget just into the world. That doesn't work. So you have to create the widget first, and if you haven't created the widget first and some other blueprint looks for the variable, it won't find it, and you will get errors, you will get unwanted things. So I would recommend to you to create an extra actor and just move it into the world. We open this actor. If you don't put anything like this is just a default scene root. This is invisible, so no one will see it. In the event graph, at the moment we don't really need an event or anything. The only thing we need is a button that says greetings or greeting. I compile this and save. That's everything we need for now. Then now the first thing we want to do is when we press on greet that we have the animation playing. That will be the first step before we build the cutscene around it. I mean, just in this case, maybe, like I said, if you have more complex cutscenes with more animations, you may want first to set up the camera or anything like this. So I kind of like to start with the animations. It's easier than, for me, it's easier than to set up the camera. So for that, I already have opened it. We go to our play character blueprint. So what we want to do now is we have to get a reference to our new cutscene actor we made. For that we get my favorite command, get all actors of a class. You go in here and press in cutscenes. We have now 2 because I recorded this once and it's still saved for some reason. New folder, new folder, new folder, that's the right one. Get in here, get the copy, and we get here the greeting button from here. So now you have to be aware if you do it like this. I have the habit that I create default maps at the beginning and then I put all the actors I know I need into this default maps, and then I create copies of the default maps and I create my maps I want to use for my project. You just have to know if you're in a map you don't have this actor in it because maybe you don't need a cutscene in this map or so. But you use this player character with this animation blueprint, it will always look for this animation. So be aware of that. It's also possible to create different animation blueprints for the same actor. That means you can create a special blueprint only for cutscenes as example. So with that you can avoid this. But just so you know, so what we do here, we promote this to a variable. We call this greet question mark, however, just so it's a little bit different, so we know which one is which. And we go to our new state machine. Here we already set up the idle animation. It's pretty simple. I did this in my Unreal Engine tutorial for player characters, setting up a simple player characters with different skins and customization options. You can watch this. I think it's part 3 or 4 about setting up the animation if you want to know how to do this. But again, this is extremely the basics. It's not a very deep tutorial about animation blueprints and so on. So I already made this animation. Now it wants to give me a preview. Okay. This very simple animation I made here, where we can go and look at it. Where he just imagine he has his hat on. He lifts his hat to greet. That's all I did for that. Let's go to our blueprint here. So now we don't want to loop this, we just want him to do it once. So let's take this off the loop animation. and the play rate of 1 is probably fine. You may want to play around with the playtime depending on how you create the animations or how the person that creates for you the animations does it. And now we go back to our state machine here, new state machine. Now we of course have to say, give him the conditions when are we changing from our idle animation to our greetings animation. For this time I will do it extremely simple, and I will just everything is depending on this variable here, if this variable is on or off. Because it's a ball and we just can put it in. So that means here when we have this ball on, if it's on true, then we will play this animation. if it's on false, we go back to our idle animation, that so we can't just put it in. There is a command that it's called not boolean. That means if this one here is true, then we take the opposite of that, so false. If this was yeah, I hope you understand. So it's just the opposite. You can also put other commands like is this number bigger than another number, or things like that, and then add a not if you want to create it. So but what this means here is just when the greet born is on false, we go back to our idle animation. So be aware that this is only for this presentation. Most of the time you need a little bit more than this, so you have really smooth transitions between the animations, and so on. So just so you know, what you also can do is you have the command remaining time remaining, and then you can set a time like it's more than 0.1, and then add this in here. Then we will go back to the idle animation after the animation is finished. However, we have now the problem, and that's I explained this very shortly now, because you see it's not that easy like I did it right now to build up animations. The problem is now if we have still this greeting on the greet ball on true, we will go back to this animation, and we will build a loop, what we actually don't want. I hope that's understanding that this is very simplified, very simple for this tutorial, to show you in this tutorial mod how you can do something like this. So I will delete this and save it. So now we can go to our widget we use to set our commands. So like I said, the talk command we set up. Now we want our greet command. We just on pressed because it's a button, and we do similar thing we did before. We want to get a reference to our cutscene actor. That's the first one, I guess. We will get a copy, and then we will set our greeting ball on. That's what we want here. And Then, so when we press this, what this means is when we press the button, then our greeting animation should happen. So now, however, again, this is for very simple for this for the presentation of this tutorial. I will add here a delay of, I don't know, 3 seconds. 3 seconds may be too much. Yeah, we will see. Let's keep it like this. And I will add again the greeting fallen, and I will set it on false. So after 3 seconds we should go back to our idle animation. Again, this is very simplified. If you want to have smoother transition between animations and so on, it will be more complex, just so you are aware. That's why I repeat it over and over again. So let's test this out. We have our character, we close into our NPC. We can now choose greet, and we see the animation actually happens. I just saw that the material is not made for it, but that's okay. Ignore that it went gray. I can do it again. Also, the animation is not very good synchronized with each other, but that's fine. We can ignore all that. What is important is, hey, the animation works. That's the important part for now. And what we want to do now is add a cutscene. For that we need first a camera. We go here on the left side under this is just called place. Okay, under here we go under cinematics, and then we have here a sync camera. You have some other different things here. I'm not using much. I often just use the camera, to be honest. And for this example, it's definitely enough. So we have our sync camera in here. Depending on how many you use, you may wanna name them. We just use one, so that's okay for us at the moment. So maybe let's higher it, make it a little bit higher. You see here, when you selected the camera, you see the view of the camera, what is very helpful to set up the camera. Sorry. I set it to -90 degrees so we can look at our NPC. I think we want to have it a little bit closer and a little bit more to the center. That's fine. Let's keep it down here, and then we move back and up, just as for an example. So now we have our camera. What we now have to do is, before we create the camera movements, let's do first change between the cameras. So at the moment when we play the game, our camera is on, our view is on the camera that is on our third person character, on the back of our third person character, and of course follows this guy here if we move around. So what we want is now set it on our camera that we just placed. I will show you immediately how we do that. Before we do this, I forgot one thing, and you have to set the focus mode on tracking, and then you have to set on what it has to be. You want to have it focused. We can set here the NPC as example. That's not something I very like, but you have to do it. There is also the possibility to create an actor with a camera and using a camera that is always focused. What's actually something I like to use better, but for this tutorial we will use this camera here. That's the first thing we have to do. We now go to our level blueprint. I already have it opened. We have to do this in our event tick, because this is not, I always say don't put too much on the event tick, because that will cost you resources. Everything you can put on event begin, play, or different events. But this one here we need it on event tick. When do we need it in event tick? When something when we need dynamic changes, like switching between cameras at certain moments, or at random moments, then even more. So if we have like these random changes, we have to put it on the event tick. And how we do this, we need our cutscene greetings variable. So that's the first thing we do. Cutscene. So again, get all actors of a class, cutscene, and then get a copy. And from here we get greetings variable. Then here we get the branch. And we have an option between true and false where we set our camera. So we set our camera, of course, when it's on the camera we now set up, on, as long as greetings is on true. If greetings is on false, we want to have our player character. So now to get reference to our camera, and that's why we have to do this in the level blueprint, and we can't do it somewhere else, is we can select the camera in our map, we go to our level blueprint, we press the right mouse button, and then we see here we have already created a reference to sync camera actor 1. That's what we want here. What we also need is our player control. Here, get player controller, this one here. From here we can get a new command, press in blend, set view target with blend. Here we can change our view target, the camera we see through. So true, we want this actor here, so we connect these two together. I will create another of these events. The best thing is just set blend, because there's only one function. This has blend in it. And now we kind of have to move this a little bit, because I also need reference to our player character, so we can set this. Our player character is PC blueprint, very simple named here. Get a copy, and we just move it in here, and that's enough. So it Tension will understand which camera it has to use. like this. So that's all we have to do. We compile and we save, and if we did everything correctly, we can go now here, select grid, and we see the camera changes, and after 3 seconds we change back. So now we want to create a short scene in which the camera moves. For that, we go here to cinematics, and we have a couple of choices here, but as far as I know, the matinee is a little bit outdated. The master sequencer is something I'm not using too much, so maybe some people really know how to use it. I mostly use level sequence. Then we can select the folder where we want to save it and the name of it. Let's just call it cut scene tutorial and save it, and it will open up. So now what we do is we add a track and actor to sequencer, and here we have every actor we added already to the map. So we choose our cinema camera actor, then here under transformation, location and rotation, I click everything plus, so it will remember these positions in here. Now here we see the frames, so we have it on 30 frames per second. That means around 30 around 30 is 1 second, not around 30 frames are 1 second. So here we have 50, so it's a little bit difficult here. We still have 10. Yeah, you have to calculate, but I think 60, 70, 80, and then here we have 90. So 90 will be 3 seconds. So if you remember, I set it up to 3 seconds. That should be enough for us. So here we set new location. And again, this is extremely simple, just so you know. So what I want is, I want it further away from our characters. That will be the X. So let's choose for now 1000. We keep this one here, and we want to have it higher, maybe 300, and then we make it that it looks a little bit down, so here maybe -20. And now when we go back in here, we see here this is our level sequence we added, cutscene tutorial. Let's go to our camera here, and I see right now I chose the wrong direction. I'm sorry about that. This was 700. Then we go here back to 800. So now in our view, we could have gone a little bit more up, but that's okay for now. It's just a demonstration. We see our end, where the camera ends. We can now here set on play, and nothing. Now it works, and we see the movement the camera does. What we also can do is in here pressing the right mouse button and say here restore state or keep state. That's most of the time you kind of want to keep the state. So that keep the state means if you have the sequencer finished, the camera and everything will stay on your end position. Restore state means it goes back to your normal position. So that's something you have to know when and how you want to use it. Let's keep this open. I think that's okay for the demonstration, so now we have to play this sequencer. For that we go back to our level blueprint, and we add here the animation. Let's put in create level sequence player. Then here we can select our cutscene tutorial, and then from here we have to set on play. You can choose set play sequence player and then connect this here. You also can just connect this one here and it will create your sequence player on your own, just so you know. So we have to do one more very important thing. It's just a little thing, but it's very important in this case. The problem here is now we have the create level sequence player on our event tick. What does that mean? That like every time when we start this event and we finish this event, the event will restart, what is kind of like in a very fast sequence. So what happens now is we start this sequence player over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. We have it in a very fast loop, and the level sequence can't even play like this. So for this we have a very simple function we can use that is called do once, and we can do this before here. So now the engine knows I only want to do this for one time, and you can even add an event or a condition to reset it and do it a second time or a third time if you want to at a different point, maybe, just as example. And now with this here on, we can compile and save, play. We go closer to our NPC, we select greet, and we see everything works fine. The animation plays, the camera moves back. So this is all I want to show you. Just be aware if the sequences doesn't seem to play, just remember to add the do once command in here and then it will work. This is a small detail, but it's easy to forget or to overlook. With that, I want to finish this tutorial here. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, any problems, any requests, what maybe you want to see something more in detail, then please leave a comment. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in another video.